Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to go over what I think is the best build in the game. So, as far as damage goes, like if you're going to go for max damage output, this is the guide for you. Now, most people they know that Amane Ame no Uzume, uh, 7-piece Ame no Uzume, and a 6-piece Susano. It's a really good build because you get Death Dancer and Versatility. Death Dancer does 70% more damage, and Versatility gives you 60%. Uh, you can refresh Death Dancer, and Versatility lasts like 90 seconds, 60 or 90 seconds at, at 9 stacks. And you can refresh up until 9, and then 9 no more refreshing, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Um, I will get into that here in a minute, what I think is the better build. And first, I want to go over a couple things. Let's go into skills. So I'm going to be using the spear because that's what I really like. We're going to be taking off some Arcana. Just to see some base damage. So, all right. A lot of people think that active skills are all end all be all of your damage, and it's not. Um, your quick attacks aren't crazy, but your lowest stance quick attacks have a really high application rate. So if you have corruption on your weapon, like I do, you can apply corrupted, and that'll do a little bit of max key damage to the afflicted target, which is really good against yokai, because your yokai abilities don't need to do as much key damage to knock them into a grapple state. So, uh, yeah, and sorry, I lost my train of thought. As far as your low stance strong attacks, it's nothing really to write home about. They do all right damage, not nothing. Your high stance, your quick attacks, it does all right damage, but the big damage is your high stance strong. Really crazy amount of damage in your high stance strong. Your high stance quick attacks, they do damage. They don't have really good application rate of anything, but they do damage. It's they're not as good as your high stance strong. And then your mid stance, your quick attacks, it's whatever, and your mid stance strong attacks, they're actually pretty decent, but it's more of a middle of the line thing as you'd expect. High stance for damage, low stance for quick attacks and application rates. So um, yeah, most weapons, high stance quick attacks are really good application, and mid stance kind of everything else. Middle of the line on everything. I'm gonna test a couple things. We're gonna use a paralyzed thing on Yoki. He is not helping me out. All right. So strong attack, 2975. 2975. One more. 2975. All right. Make sure we don't have a buff when we do that. 2975. All right. Now we're going to do a triple threat. I had 2 buffs because of that fucker. Um, 4,000. I know I had a buff because I switched stances. That's fine. I expect triple threat to always have that buff. about 4,000. So 29 versus 4,000. The problem with that is that you could probably get two uh, high stance strongs out, and really the first two hits. See how often he moves. Aren't anything. It's that final hit that does more damage, and the first two hits actually do about as much as a strong attack. So, or a high stance strong attack rather. Okay. All right, and finally, twisting spear. 4638. So 29 versus 4,000 versus, you know, 47, we'll just say. So that is what a high stance strong does. And the fact that both of those abilities take a while to actually get off versus high stance strong is right there on demand. And the fact that you can, and you can't really do that with, or so anyways, I think you can kind of see the value. The damage per frames, as I like to put it, high stance strong is king. Um, yeah, so let's go into a little more into the build now. So first of all, we're going to go with our Guardian Spirits. Genomeko has a damage bonus, health lost. So at 1 HP, Genomeko gives you a 30% damage increase on everything. Everything. Everything increases damage on 30%. So crazy. That is going to be pretty central to the build. You can, if you don't want to use Genomeko, there is another feral damage bonus critical. You don't have to be at 1 HP, but it does give you 15% critical when you pop a like a deadly gambit pool. Also, this procs with your cornered tiger perks, so pretty significant there. And then for our secondary, we have Ho, because Ho is one of the only guardian spirits, I think the only one, that gives you damage just as a secondary stat. This is 4% damage in high stance. Only high stance benefits from this, but it's damage. Also, as you just saw there, Genomeko, auto charge, and Rita gauge. It's pretty slow, but yeah, just popping a deadly gambit pill will go ahead and fill that up for you. Then pray to shrine, remove everything, keep your guardian spirit. Pretty decent. So, if you do not like the low health portion, you can actually switch to Baku, just because you get melee damage corrupted enemy, or you can actually just pick any guardian spirit. It doesn't really matter, but as far as chasing those highest damage possible, we're going to go with Genomeko. Now, see, I have a Kuroka Spear, and that is because a corrupted weapon is very central to the build. There is one grace that is very strong that I was talking about Ame no Uzume and Susanoo. There's actually a grace, I think it's Izagami or Izumi or something like that, but it's a purity grace, and it gives you, if you've purified 3 yokai realms, it gives you a 30% damage increase. It gives you health recovery, I believe key recovery, maybe defense, I'm not sure. Anyways, and then it also has, for a secondary stat, 30% increased damage to purified targets. So 30% plus 30% is 60%, and versatility is 60%. The downside to this grace is that because it's a purity based thing, you're not going to be able to use corruption weapons, at least effectively. So, because corruption overrides purity and purity overrides corruption, we're kind of at a catch-21 there. So, we're going to avoid that grace altogether. Because when your corrupted weapon awakens, you get an extra 30% damage. And if this is truly a highest damage build, you're going to get more damage using a corrupted weapon. So let's go into the gear. Your ranged weapons do not matter. For this build in particular, I'm going to have a pretty heavy loadout. So, yeah. Yep. So, I'm missing one more. Okay, it's this one. Let's go into the helmet. I do want to explain one thing here. With this helmet, what is significant about it is this damage bonus, or damage taken. It's A minus. At 14,000 damage taken, you get an 18% increase on your damage. And this is only removed when you die, pray at a shrine, or leave a mission. I believe when you die from and use a quick change scroll, it's also reset. But you can heal and you can go back to full health, and that 18% will still apply. So what you can actually do is you can go into your Arcana, go to Fatal Thrust. I prefer it on Fatal Thrust, and put Raging Strike on, and you can go and put my stuff back on, and you can actually, we know a strong attack does 3155 there. It was doing stuff earlier. Oh, it's because I'm gonna lose it. I just died. Trying to keep this. Yep, I should lose Uzume, and Death Dancer will fall apart here in just a few seconds because it only lasts 15 seconds. See how I'm still doing damage to myself with Raging Strike. Of course, he'd dodge that. Sorry. Now I'm up to 4610. So pretty significant there from that perspective. It is one of the highest things you can get on an armor. So definitely grab that because it is, we're going for the highest damage output possible, and 18% when you're low on health. Also, I want to point out something because I think some of you might be thinking it. Damage bonus damage taken is actually a different stat altogether than damage bonus health lost. Health loss is when you're at 1 HP. That's when you benefit from this. This is just the damage you've taken in general. So do keep that in mind. Alright, so now I have the complete Ame no Uzume set, and it's pretty easy to stack, especially when you are in low stance. You just, alright, pretty easy. Let's talk about the runner-up, or the runner-ups rather. So we all know that in Susanoo, you get life, damage taken, key recovery speed, which is pretty decent. But because we're using Death Dancer, we're getting 60% or 80%, 60 or 80% key recovery speed just with a Death Dancer thing. And increased defense on Purification. But because we're using Ame no Uzume, we don't really need this increased defense because we're not going to try to get hit, especially in a critical health build. Don't need that stat. So Susanoo's good, but don't really need those stats associated with it. Now, if we look at Warrior of the West, which also has versatility, let's go through these stats. You get life, Tiger Sprint damage, which I guess is alright if you use Tiger Sprint a lot. Not a big fan. Melee damage 4%. 4%. Alright, melee damage versus electrified enemies 15%. That's decent. There's very few enemies resistant to lightning. Active skill key consumption. Alright, I guess. Melee damage, no backstab bonus. So this is actually interesting because you can actually decrease your damage because when you attack a target from behind you, you're getting like 65% increased damage from attacking them behind. So you lose out on that modifier, but you get 7%. So it's kind of weird. You decrease your damage by like 50%. And then you get versatility at the end. It's all right. Like I said, it's just not what we're going to go for. We're actually going to go for the eccentric set. The eccentric set gives us, not only is it medium armor, it gives us easy target, which, okay, it's an aggro set. Life, okay, whatever. Strong attack damage 6%. Whew, it's kind of nice. Strong attacks, I already showed you how great those are. A little bit of luck, whatever. And strong attack damage again 8.7%. So 2 strong attacks about 15%, 14.7 if you want to be exact. Crazy that our strong attacks are getting buffed another 15%. That's a item, like a weapon roll. That's a really good weapon roll, you know. So not only is it giving us a 70% with Amano Uzume, it's also giving us 60% for versatility plus another 15% approximately for our strong attack damage, which is just insane. You add in Janomaku for the 30%. You add in Ho for the extra 4% that it does. It's looking pretty juicy. You do want to get an attack bonus on one of the stats you put into 200. This will increase your damage a lot more than just a regular weapon roll, just because the higher our base damage does, the bigger the bonuses have to work off of. So definitely go about that. Then we're going to go through our other buffs that we can get, which is the new Peppo meat, which increases our damage by 50%, but it increases the key damage and the key cost enemies do to us, and that the key cost of our abilities by 50% as well. It's actually a pretty short frame or short buff. You can get this through the consumable New Peppo dried meat, or you can get a soul core on the alternate guardian spirit. We have a Carnage Talisman, which gives us 40%, I think. Let me double check. 40% damage increase for 30 to 60 seconds based on our Omnio. Soul Purge, which is 55% damage for 60 to 100 seconds. So it does it does decrease our. I might not be able to use whetstones in here. Yeah, I can't use it in the dojo. I'll have to leave the dojo real quick. It does decrease our familiarity to 0, but only after the buff ends, or if we pray to shrine, or if we die. And then we have the Deadly Gambit, and it increases our damage from 50% to 60% if you invest in ninjutsu. 50% is enough, and with the Enlightenment perk, or Mystic Art rather, it lasts for quite a long time. And my stats, just so you know, it's not optimal. These are not optimal stats. Because I use the spear, I'm doing a spear run. I have strength and skill maxed out, just for that extra little bit of attack. And then I have it remodeled into courage for that. Sorry, I need to take a drink real quick. Ultimate courage, ultimate strength, and ultimate skill. One thing about Ame no Uzume is that you lose a stack every time you block, and you lose 2 stacks every time you get hit. But with ultimate strength, you can actually block on with a corrupted weapon, and so I can actually gain my Death Dancer stack back if I Spear Flourish or Rainbow Ruse after a block, because it's a key pulse on key pulse ability. So that's pretty handy. In case there's some attacks I'm sure some of y'all aren't comfortable with dodging. I know it is for me. Let me increase my familiarity real quick, and I do want to show you just a little bit of the thought process behind this build. Let me go ahead and use some whetstones. Where are you at, whetstones? There you are. Okay. So real quick, let me show you. Let me actually do this. Let me show you some of the gear. Janameku, obviously when auto charge and arena, it's gonna be filling up. That's about how fast it fills up. Anyways, let's go through gear. So because we use an awakening weapon, or a corrupted weapon that can awaken, we want sentience charge on our scroll if we can. 85 to 100% is really good. 80% is fine. Just get what you can. It can be pretty difficult to grab on a scroll. Luckily, I got one that was innate, and it was a really good innate stat. I have extended dodge and vulnerability on my scroll, so I chose to go with the greaves. You can only get extended dodge and vulnerability on light boots, so there's that. I went ahead and got sentience charge on all of my primary guardian shift soul cores. I was trying to get nullify damage yokai shift on it as well, but it's a little difficult. 60% damage or sentience charge on your accessories. I think I got pretty decent ones. And then you can get 20% on your waist and your chest. This will give you pretty significant sentience charge, 343%. So it will proc quite a bit. Your weapon will awaken quite a bit. Because we were kind of a heavier set, like I said, the equipment weight's 35. You're not gonna be able to get probably get a agility maybe if you take off the eccentric cuirass and put something super light on and go full stamina, full strength, you might hit a agility. I'm not sure. And you'll have to switch over some other stuff. I have a heavy helmet, and yeah, I don't know. It'll be close. Um, I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's really the biggest thing is Sinian's charge. The melee damage on critical state, it's really good if you can get it in a star state. I don't always have it in a star state, but I have pretty decent rolls. And I feel like I was going to tell you one more thing before I start, but I guess we can start. That's going to bug me. Oh, so when your weapon awakens, it'll shoot a beam. It does about 30% of your baseline strong attack damage. Um, it doesn't isn't affected by any modifiers that um, your increased strong attack does. It just the base strong attack, about 30% of it. When you are in Yokai Shift, the whole point of this build is to actually use Raging Strike to build up, you know, the Onryoki's helmet and the Jano Mako getting the 1 HP. Then going into Yokai Shift, when your weapon is awakened. When your weapon's awakened, you can actually use familiar talismans to use a strong attack to not only shoot the familiar, but your weapon's awakened uh, charge beam. And it's for this one and this one. Both both strong attacks will shoot them, but only while you have the familiar talisman applied. Once you have it, you'll stop shooting out those projectiles. But let me show you how strong these little familiars are. $14.94, just 22.41. Granted, he's confused now. Anyways, you can actually shoot, if you leave them, you can actually shoot them on each strong attack. Although you'll only shoot the beam with the final and the combo. So, anyways, yeah, like I said, the point is get to 1 HP, take the damage, switch over to your Yokai Shift, and profit. So. So I'm just building up stacks real quick. Amano Uzume, the Death Dancer, does fall off every 15 seconds. It is not the hardest thing to build up. So now we'll go ahead and pop. We want to keep the Death Dancer part up. Let's see how much a strong attack does. Well, that just because I broke the horn. 25.94. So obviously the damage boost you can get with this build is pretty crazy. Pretty freaking crazy, one-shotting enemies. Quick note, this build actually does work with everything confusion based. So on my alternate spirit, I have the standard elemental um, guardian spirits soul cores. Um, so for lightning, I have lightning Katsuyomi because it's a pretty good attack. It does cost quite a bit of anima, but it's very high application for lightning. For fire, I have shooting dojing. You can use Kuroka. Kuroka actually is a lower cost slightly, and it does have very high application rate. But shooting doji just has a higher AoE and higher fire damage. And then Yasha because it has a pretty good anti-human property. But you can use Bakugani because it's cheaper. But pretty anti-human. And by anti-human, I just mean you can actually go into a final blow if you hit them when tumbling. So if I'll show you that one more time. See how they did a roll? When they roll like that, you can actually final blow them. Or if you hit them while they roll, you can put them in a final blow state. But confusion's very strong because if you have two elements at the same time, they take 50% more damage. And for yokai, their ki recovery is halted, and for humans, it's slowed. So lightning and fire, or lightning and water, fire and water, and then you could also add purity to any of those, or corruption to any of those. Purity does overwrite corruption, and corruption does overwrite purity, but you can actually also use that to extend the confusion state. You actually don't want to apply more than two elements at a time until it's about to run off, because then you extend the, um, the confusion state. Also, one more thing, I know I talked to you about familiar talismans. A couple more things, I guess. When you are dodge attacking, you can actually shoot these out. They work for the shockwave or cutting blast talismans in the Omnio tree. Also, your dodge attacks benefit from strong attacks. So whether you press triangle or square, it will do a different amount of damage. So let me show you that real quick. Let me take off that. So my dodge attack with square is 2113. Dodge attack with triangle, 2168. Let me switch over to Janomeko. So it's a little bigger difference. 2459, 25, 16. So not the highest difference, but I figured it's worth showing. And then also want to show you one more thing as far as the ninjutsu I've picked. So some people might know this, some people might not. Certain yokai, when you grapple them, you can go into Yokai Shift, and you can double grapple them. With Exorcist Blade and Umbral Bullet, which are these two hidden ninjutsu skills, you can actually apply the same thing. It does not apply for Flame Dragon, unfortunately, but Flame Dragon does do quite a bit of fire damage. But you can double grapple some yokai that way. As far as the Medusa Powder, I like it a lot for humans. Because you can get a free grapple on them. With the Maeda Clan, which is what I use, and Sneak Attack, every time you grapple or Sneak Attack, they get a defensive buff. or they lose all of their defense. So your attacks will do more damage to them. And this does persist just a little bit outside of after the grapple. So see that defensive thing down? See how it's wearing off very fast? You can usually get one or two um, strong attacks off. And like I said, it does apply after a sneak attack as well. But I figured it's worth mentioning because it is a part of the build. So thank you, and I will see you guys in the next one.